Hi, so today we're going to talk about high intensity interval training. First, I'm going to go through some more anecdotal kind of things, and then we'll get into a scientific study which I think had some interesting findings. The first thing to bear in mind is there is no one universal definition for high intensity interval training. It can be with several different sort of modes of exercise, several different durations. Two of the most popular methods that occur the most frequently in the scientific research are, there is one method which is the Wingate test, which is 30 seconds of cycling with resistance, 4.5 minutes off, and then it's repeated 4 to 6 times. And another method that's very popular is also the Tabata protocol, which is 20 seconds of intense effort on and then 10 seconds off. And that's repeated about 8 times for about 4 minutes usually. Some of the recent research, and indeed some of the older research, has shown that high intensity interval training is as effective as sort of longer steady state cycling or running for improving many measures of cardiovascular health and in terms of sport performance. So to get into an anecdotal point, I think the average person off the street would probably say they don't really like sort of longer runs, a longer cycle. If something shorter and more intense can be as good for your health and it's also going to be a bit more time efficient, then they would probably prefer that. In my anecdotal experience, I can say I've been in laboratory settings at the University of Birmingham whilst the Wingate test, which as I said is a method of HIIT, is being performed. And I can say for the participants in that experiment, it was very much my impression that whilst they were doing it, it was just hell. You know, you could see the look on their face when they came in the room. It's like the 11th hour. Whereas I think if instead of been doing the Wingate test, they had been doing sort of a steady state cycle or cardio, working to about 70 to 80% of their sort of max heart rate, I think it would have been a drag, but it wouldn't have been quite as a bad experience as the Wingate test was. So taking this point further, there was a study done at a university in Turkey which asked participants to complete a bout of high intensity interval training and also a bout of steady state cardio. And in that, it's one of the few studies that really asked participants to self-report how much they enjoyed the exercise. And that study found that the participants in the study found that high intensity interval training method just absolutely horrendous. They really struggled to do it. Whereas the steady state cardio, they didn't really like it, but nevertheless they managed to complete it and they did find it more enjoyable than the high intensity interval training. Now, it could be a case, I mean, I don't know who's going to be watching this, there might be certain individual personality features about you that make you think that you prefer high intensity interval training, and that might be the genuine case because in all studies there's, you know, subject to variance. But I'd say for the population as a whole, it seems likely that there are people out there who have the intention of doing HIIT but are falling just a little bit short of the training thresholds to receive the most benefits that they could get from doing that training style. So just as a general point, I think it's worth bearing in mind for your own training just to make sure that, you know, you are working in the appropriate kind of training zones. So for high intensity interval training, that's going to be looking at about 90 to 95% of your max. I suspect there's a lot of people out there who are kind of working in the sort of the 80 to 90% range. It's really just a question of personal training commitment, how much you're really willing to put in. But also, I mean, I guess you can get these, there's heart rate monitors out there and things like that you can get. A spirometer might be a bit too expensive, but it's just something worth bearing in mind, just making sure you are getting your heart rate up into those important training zones, and you're not just doing something that's fairly intense but it's mainly just short.